passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Gerhard Mathangani.
A really compelling situation going on at Ole Miss, a team that is coming off a spot in the college football playoff, now dealing with some off-field drama, and it all has to do with NIL contracts that were leaked. What has caused a now domino effect as far as players entering the transfer portal. And there you see linebacker T.J. Daugherty entered the transfer portal, one of many that will likely be affected by this story. Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Patrick Walsh. Patrick, I think when this story first came out, when we found out that the NIL deals have been leaked for Ole Miss, I think a lot of people around college football did a big, oh boy, because this could have some looming ramifications, and this is the first time we have heard of it. Now, there might have been some stuff internally, but we have not heard about this externally and what it has meant for other players down the road entering the transfer portal.
No, and first of all, happy Friday, everybody.
Yep.
You know, you made it through the week, so there is that. We're not going to start off this show too gloomy because it is a nice day.
Yeah.
Weather's a little bit nice outside down here in Mobile, so there is that. But no, you and I talked about this off the air yesterday after the show, and you brought up this whole situation, or I think I brought up this whole situation, and you said one of your biggest concerns in the beginning of NIL was what's going to happen when it gets leaked that your teammate is making more than you.
Right.
Are you going to be mad about it? Are you going to enter the transfer portal and try to fight with these schools about getting more money? And I think this is the first big incident we've seen ever since.
Yes.
Obviously, T.J. Daugherty wore the green dot for Ole Miss last year and entered the transfer portal. I believe LSU is heavily linked to him, which should be to the surprise of absolutely nobody.
Right.
Because, I mean, Lane Kiffin kind of recruited all of these guys to go to Ole Miss. And so it's so interesting. And, you know, I just don't know if this is going to be the last time that we see this.
No, it can't. I don't think it will be either. And I think another question you have to start asking yourself is just how much the NIL deals have affected locker rooms, and it's been relatively quiet. I think entering this whole the whole NIL world and then domino effect to the transfer portal world, I think there was a lot made of, okay, well, this can cause some strife in locker rooms,
right.
And for the most part, it really hasn't on its surface. Now, when you hear 4,500 players go into the transfer portal, this might be the first one, but how many of those might be a situation where they found out their team is making more? This might just be the only public thing, but this could be probably the canary in the coal mine, so to speak, of what is going on in these locker rooms now. And I think a lot of players understand that, hey, you know, I'm not mad at anybody. They're not mad at anybody for taking money. It's just, how can it benefit me? And or I give more production, and so I should be paid more. Or even using the transfer portal, and we've seen this a lot too, using the transfer portal as a renegotiating tool in and of itself.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's kind of like free agents. I mean, the transfer portal literally is free agency for college football. And we see in professional sports all the time players that go ahead and test free agency, want to, you know, test the market, see what they're worth, and sometimes they do end up coming back. Most notably, Pete Alonso last year before this year. He signed with Baltimore. Last year, he tested the free agency waters. Didn't really get what he was looking for. Ended up coming back to the Mets on a 2-year deal where they opt out after year one. Obviously opted out. So, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility for some of these players to retract their name from the transfer portal. But Ben Garrett of On3 with the Ole Miss, I believe it's the Ole Miss sector of On3. He's been on this, and the report that came out was that Lane Kiffin is starting to weaponize this. So the report says that Lane Kiffin exposed some of these contracts through the agents to try and get these players into the transfer portal. Now, what I read also was that this isn't the first time that Lane Kiffin has tried to use this tactic against the team. And honestly, if this is actually what's going on right now, that it's pretty sad, because what I could see happening is, you know, he's trying to get one player, because it's no surprise that these players are represented by a lot of the same agents. Like these agencies usually represent 4, 5, 6, sometimes the bigger ones like 20 players. So, you he probably heard some of the rummagings around some of these players, and he knew what some of the players were making before because he was at Ole Miss this year, and he was right in the thick of, trying to come up with these contracts after last year's.
Right.
I almost called it free agency, and I might as well call it. I might as well call it free agency.
Yes, we kind of danced around this language for a long time when we were talking about schools signing with guys, coming to terms with players. Free agency, I think, is the right term for this.
And look, I'm going to make a comparison that honestly might sound a little crazy, but it isn't. This is like the Cold War of college football.
Interesting, yeah.
Because LSU has the #1 transfer portal class right now. Last time I checked, Ole Miss has the #3. I believe yesterday, just as recent as yesterday, they had the #2 class. I'd have to go back and look and see who jumped them. But this is kind of like USA and the Soviet Union just going back and forth with these like puppet things. And then this is like a little puppet war for Kiffin to use against these Ole Miss guys to try and get them to come down to LSU. But I mean, this is just it's crazy that this is going on in college athletics.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a question. I'll answer it first before I ask, because I think it'll be fair. The talk out there, and if you're just connecting dots with Lane Kiffin, some of the chatter is that Lane Kiffin did this on purpose to destroy the locker room.
Yeah.
And if you're just looking at reading the tea leaves overall, like, hey, look, all the talk a couple of weeks ago when Ole Miss made their run to the semifinal was, who needs Lane Kiffin?
Yeah.
All the guys are staying. If Trinidad gets that 6th year, he's staying. Kejuan Lacey, he's staying. All these guys were all staying. It made it look like it was a loss for Kiffin because the transfer portal couldn't even get his own guys that he recruited.
Because everyone already chalked it up that Kiffin was going to go and get Chambliss. He was going to go and get Lacey. The video that surfaced on social media with, I believe, Knox's friend from school. Did you see the one with the phone call?
Yes.
Where he's like, Lacey's coming down. That didn't end up happening. And I just think that this is what he's using to try and make like a last-ditch effort to get these guys to enter the portal to eventually come to LSU. And I mean, he wants to one-up Ole Miss because, I don't want to say that him and Keith Carter have bad relations by any means. I
don't think it's good by any means.
It's not good, but it's definitely not terrible. But I think this situation is starting to make it pretty close to hostile environment. All I can say is, what is it? September 21st next year?
Yes. The Ole Miss game, the Ole Miss LSU game. Yeah, it's first week of SEC play.
It's January 16th. I'm just going to go on record and saying this. I will be there.
Oh, yeah.
I do not care.
Yeah.
I will do this show on that Friday, and the second we're done after high school football, I'm going to sleep, and I'm driving up to Oxford because this is going to be pure cinema.
It'll be must watch. It will be must watch, and I think that game will be either the primetime game or the 2:00 game, because I think it'll be primetime cinema no matter what those teams' records are heading into that game. And obviously, I think both teams will likely be undefeated going into that matchup. I think too, when you're talking with Lane, when you're talking about Lane, you're talking about this situation. Remember how a lot of this got started? Lane's friction overall with Ole Miss got started probably right before the Egg Bowl, and we heard that the school was giving Lane an ultimatum.
Yeah.
That the AD was giving Lane an ultimatum to, hey, you're with us or you're not with us. Lane wanted to kick the can down the road, ended up getting to the Egg Bowl, and then right after he signs with LSU, he tells all the assistant coaches, you're on this plane or you don't have a job. I think there's been a growing friction between these two, and if that's the case, to go along with your analogy about the Cold War, I think that this is the very first big measure thing that he's been able to do behind the scenes. Like, hey, let me really destroy this Ole Miss locker room by telling these guys, hey, you're making all this money, you're making this money at Ole Miss, you can make this other money somewhere else. And I think TJ Darter is kind of maybe the perfect example of that, because he does, like you said, he does wear the green dot. He is, I would think, the captain of the defense and a guy that they're leaning on, moving forward in the next year.
Yeah, and Daugherty had a really nice year for Ole Miss. 98 total tackles, I believe 48 solo, 2 pass deflections, 1.5 sacks, and then 2 forced fumbles. As we mentioned, wore the green dot, so he was the captain there on the defense. But when you look at it from an Ole Miss standpoint, you've got a lot of linebackers that are coming in. The biggest problem that we talked about with Ole Miss this postseason that became apparent is, well, number one, they couldn't get off the field on third down. That was apparent in the Miami game. I believe Miami converted 11 third downs,
Yeah.
11 or 12. Just
Yeah.
you can't have that in a semifinal.
Right.
And that's why they held the ball for 41 minutes. But also, the open field tackling was not good by
bad.
any
Yeah.
stretch of the imagination. It was bad against Georgia. It was bad against Tulane even. And then it really became apparent against Miami. So I think, I don't want to say Daugherty was at the epicenter of that, but I do remember watching some of those games, and he was part of the missed tackles problem. So I don't know if this is – it's definitely a loss because now you have to find a new guy to wear the green dot and be that leader on the defense.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got to understand that Pete Golding is going to transition this team from an offense-based team to a defensive-based team, kind of like what we've seen Georgia in the past.
Right. I figure it's going to look a lot like Georgia. And for those situations, you do want your main linebacker who wore the green dot to be the same guy that is the leader of the defense in the following year. So this one will be interesting to follow as it continues to go along. I also find it interesting that it came at the very end of the transfer portal window. So there's not a lot of time for these guys to make if they are going to enter. There's less than 48 hours, less than 24 hours to get your name in, to be able to find a spot. And so I wonder what this causes, and then moving into fall camp as we get closer to the season, what other quote unquote bombs are launched between these two programs, because it does feel like there's a lot of friction there.
Yeah, and unlike in the Cold War, there will actually be a confrontation. It's going to be in September next year. So it's not like it goes on without true confrontation. But I think we're starting to get close to DEFCON 1 here between these two teams that are not too far away. We talked a little bit about the Sugar Bowl. We talked about how Ole Miss beat Georgia. And, well, they beat them in two sports because they shocked Georgia in Athens. Another buzzer beater. I believe it was one of 4 buzzer beaters on the night.
Yeah.
One of 2 in the SEC, if you count the Kentucky one as well there. 97-95 OT win. Second straight for the Rebs. A.J. Storr, 27 points. He has been a revelation for Chris Beard.
Yeah, if you're just watching these two teams from afar, I mean, obviously coming into this game, Georgia was the team that was I think second in adjusted tempo in KenPom for scoring, and so they came in. They were at home, looking good, and Ole Miss is the one that comes in there and gets the win. I do find it interesting that it's a high-scoring game because those high-scoring games usually favor the team that is the most high-scoring team in the SEC, which was Georgia going into this. So for Ole Miss to win that game in overtime, I think it speaks volumes about what this Ole Miss team can do. I know they're 2-2 right now in SEC play.
Yeah, but I feel like A.J. Storr has been a revelation, as I mentioned, for this team, because I think a lot of people wrote Ole Miss off after the Oklahoma game where they made it a little bit respectable, but in the end they ended up losing by 16, and then they had the close game at home against Arkansas, only lost by 7, got that first win against Missouri, and then a gutsy overtime win in Athens. I think this can be something that they can use moving forward here, and you're going to have to. I believe they have the Egg Bowl here coming up on Saturday, and then I don't know where 2-2 puts them in. I'd have to go back and look at the SEC standings, but I believe
there's a lot of teams that are right there in the mix.
There's a ton of teams right there in the mix. As we mentioned a boatload of times, we think the number is probably going to be around 9 or 10 this year that get in from the SEC. And so as long as you're in that top half, you're in that safe space right now. I believe the latest bracket projection I saw right now was Texas A&M and Auburn were the last or 2 of the last 4 in. Okay.
Georgia, okay. I see that. I can see that. And like I said, it's still so early, and you have to figure out, what trying to compare their non-conference schedules on top of each other. It's hard to do right now because there's still so much in the SEC where they can do a lot of damage.
So many chances for a resume boost and stuff like that. I think
you have to finish probably under 500 for your non-conference wins to even matter there. So it should be interesting as both those teams continue to trudge on towards the regular season. Coach Mike White and company still looking for some answers here before we go to break. Here, Coach, on regrouping.
Well, I hope it does linger in one regard, right? I mean, it's how you look at it. And I as we watch it tomorrow, and we'll try to consolidate as much as possible because we got to move on to the next guy. We got to move on to Arkansas, who's really good. But as you challenge your guys, you would hope that they would embrace some type of collectively frustration, with all of us. All of us should be frustrated. It's unacceptable the way that we defended. And so hopefully leading into practice tomorrow, our mindset is better, on the defensive end is correct. It's 97 at home. We've a lot of stuff that we've got to correct.
Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we head out to Nashville, catch up with Julian Minnesone. Stay with us. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, we head out to Tennessee. We'll go to Nashville, catch up with our good friend Julian Minnesone. Julian, entering this week, the Vanderbilt Commodores men's basketball team was the highest-ranked team in the SEC. They were undefeated on the season, 10-0. Of course, they go on the road there, and I said it during the day, during that show, and I said every now and again in the SEC, there's just some weird weeks, and it's just teams go on the road or they just play weird at home, and there's some upsets. Vanderbilt having to be caught in one to a Texas team that was rolling after beating Alabama. What did you make of that game and the first loss for the Commodores?
It's something that maybe this kind of needed to happen. They weren't going to go through the entire conference schedule in the regular season undefeated. We know that is impossible. And you are bound to have games like this and throw up some duds throughout a tough SEC schedule, specifically on the road. Now, I will say that this game against Texas highlighted some things that maybe that Vanderbilt needs to improve on, but also some kind of chinks in the armor a little bit. Though Mark Byington got a bunch of very long athletic athletes in the transfer portal, some bigger guys to go along with the Devin McLaughlin in the paint, they clearly were outsized by Vokatitis down there. I mean, they had no answer for the guy. And you saw that not only in the free throw disparity, points in the paint, there was a disadvantage there. Rebounding, they were out rebounded a ton, and they just didn't shoot well enough also to, I guess, mask some of those deficiencies, at least in that road game against Texas. And so that's going to be interesting because up on the schedule next is one of the bigger teams in the SEC. And by bigger, I mean long athletic dudes in Florida, where you could have, you have Hogue, you have Chinyelu, you have Condon, take your pick. It could be another issue where Vanderbilt sees like there are, we have some trouble with longer teams who are bigger up front.
Before we move on to the Florida game, I think I said on the show yesterday that I've seen enough Texas basketball when they were in the Big 12 to know that the Moody Center is probably haunted, like Nick Saban would always say about Jordan Hare. I think this game, when I was taking a look at it, I think it kind of exposed what happens when Tyler Tanner does not have a good night. And when you look at this Florida team, their guard play hasn't been the greatest. They're led by Houck. They're led by Condon. So what do you need to see out of Okereke heading into this game?
Well, more than 0 points.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that. Like him and Jalen Washington, you can't go scoreless, right? Because they're not necessarily, in my eyes, like the deepest team right now. Of course, hopefully, if Frankie Collins is able to return at some point, that'll provide another guard off the bench. But like, if Tyler Tanner doesn't have a 20, 25 point performance, they're going to struggle. And when you have two key players who play big time minutes for you, combine for 0 points, that is not going to do it in an SEC schedule where the room for error is so like razor thin. Also, you got to defend without fouling. And Jalen Washington, part of the reason that other game where he didn't score is he didn't stay on the floor enough. And so you got to be available. You can't get into foul trouble. You can't disrupt your offense. And if you're looking ahead at this Florida game, the fact that Tyler Tanner is on your side, that is somewhere where maybe if Vanderbilt is able to speed up the game, hit some outside shots, not have the game slow down on them, where Florida could take advantage of you size-wise, that's somewhere where they could shrink the margins and potentially win this thing.
So after their first loss, Coach Mark Byington and company looking for some answers here. Coach Byington talking a little bit about moving on from this one as they get ready for their weekend game.
You know, the SEC games feel like this. And, you know, it's very difficult on both ends. You're going against good players, good coaches. And, you know, there are runs. I was hoping we'd have a run there towards the end. And we got it to 4. You know, I thought we could dig in there a little bit and kind of put some more pressure on them, but they made the plays, you know, the last 8 minutes to be able to separate the game. So I don't like losing. It's, you know, we're not used to it. You know, now's the situation with this team is we got to see how we handle it and how we come back from, you know, taking a tough loss. And, you know, what's up next? We got the defending national championships at an early game. We'll get back super late tonight, and then we got to get up early and play a team that's probably playing as good as anybody in the country right now. So that's the SEC. We signed up for it. It's tough. It's challenging. But when a team plays as well as they did tonight, you got to learn quick and move on, and that's what we're going to try to do.
It's a really interesting scheduling spot here, Julian, because typically if you play your midweek game on the road, you'll play your next game on the road as well. So you pack your bags and stay. But, you know, Coach brought up a great point that it's an early tip-off and you're going back to Nashville. How do you feel that Coach will, after this first loss, be able to help adjust his team, the travel and everything else to get ready to play early Saturday?
I think he'll do a fine job of that. I mean, Mark Byington knows what it takes to go throughout an entire SEC schedule after doing it last year. And, you know, the interesting thing when it comes to Florida, you need to make sure your guys are rested because they are physical up front, and there's going to be some bumps and bruises after this game, no doubt. And I think just also an overall reset. It'll be good to get back at Memorial Gym, too. I mean, I think in an ideal scenario, after suffering your first loss in SEC play, your first loss of the season, you'd like to go back and play at home and get some home cooking as well. You know, as we talked about earlier, they've got to defend without fouling. They've got to shoot a lot better. And sometimes just having some fresher legs and resting your guys in between games, that's what you're going to have to do, especially against a team like Florida with the championship experience that they have. One guy in particular who needs to get out of this witness protection program, whatever the heck he's in, is Tyler Harris. I mean, they brought the dude in. He was 50% from 3 when he was at Washington, and now he's at 29% this year. And I think they expected him to be a lot better than he has been. An unreal slump for the guy. Yeah. So maybe somebody like him to get a spark off the bench. You're going to have guys throughout the SEC schedule, because it is a long season, give you performances that maybe you don't expect. And so I'm looking at Okereke. I'm looking at Jalen Washington. Yeah. Looking at Tyler Harris, guys who were not necessarily the most productive in this last game. You're going to have to get more out of those guys, because if you go through an entire season of just hoping that Tyler Tanner scores 25, 30 points a game, it's not necessarily a recipe for success in team basketball.
Julian, real quick before we flip to the women's side, what do you think, what matchup are you looking forward to the most here with this game against Florida? The guards going up against each other or the bigs going up against each other?
I mean, when I played in high school and a year into college, I was a guard. Obviously, I'm like 5'11" on a good day when I stretch. So anything
when I stretch,
when you put the special shoes on.
Yeah, the lifts. You know what I mean? What is it? No guy is 5'11", right? Is that the
yeah? They're all 6 foot.
Yeah.
But anything with Tyler Tanner and Boogie Flan, that'll be interesting, dynamic. Obviously, I'm interested to see how Mark Byington goes about defending these guys down in the paint. I covered Ruben Chinyelu when he was at Washington State. During those times before he transferred to Florida, and he has gotten a heck of a lot better in just a short amount of time being at a power school now. So interesting to see how Devin McLaughlin goes up against him and Condon, how they're going to, maybe they throw different people on him so one guy doesn't necessarily get in foul trouble. Maybe they give him different, maybe a zone look and a man-to-man look, so kind of throw Florida off their game a little bit. Again, It's going to come down to, can Vanderbilt hit shots in order to slow the game down for Florida offensively as well? And can Vanderbilt speed up the game and control tempo too, getting Tyler Tanner, Tyler Nickel, guys out in transition to spot up and hit down jumpers? So we'll see how that goes.
Flipping over to the women's side, I'll give you a peek behind the curtain here, Julian. Last night, our boy Patrick, he was rooting for Michaela Blakes to get a 40-piece.
I was rooting for the 40 burger.
Like he was Michaela's father. Like he was just like, she was sitting on
last minute. The last minute, I was just watching, like, please get her the ball. Please get her the ball. She's 2 points away, and it just didn't happen. I thought she got fouled with, like, 10 seconds left. I wanted a foul. Ref, let's blow the whistle here. Come on. You need to get your screen time. Blow the whistle. Get her to the line. Get the 40 points. No, she's just going to have to settle with 38, I guess.
But an unbelievable night, and they stay undefeated. I feel like you've kind of run out of superlatives with her. Like, what is it about her that it makes not only the upper tier of this Vanderbilt roster, but everybody kind of play maybe a few degrees above where they normally are?
Well, indeed. And to your point, Patrick, I was rooting for the 42, but what is 40 when you've scored 50 a couple times already?
That's true.
These facts.
You know, it's like just another day at the office. 38. Her fifth 30-point performance of the season, by the way. You know, sometimes in games, guys, you just need your stars to play like stars.
Yeah.
And I know one of the big issues for Vanderbilt this year, and we've talked about it this show, I know Corey's talked about it with you guys as well, is where is that secondary scoring going to come from?
Right.
And they've gotten at times in this undefeated stretch that they're on, best start in school history, they have been able to receive the supporting cast support better than maybe expected. Now, there are going to be games like this where you need Michaela Blakes to bail you out. Do you want this every time? No. I think if Shea Ralph had her way, it would be a little bit more balanced than 38 points and then the next person scoring 12. That was Justine Passat last night. So, but there are going to be games like this, and I tell you, when you have a game like this, when the play breaks down and maybe you're not having your best offensive performance, or maybe the other team, Mississippi State, you know, gave them some trouble at times last night, you are going to need your best player to bail you out. And Michaela Blakes in that third quarter bailed them out. And I got to tell you, you know, when you have a player like that, it elevates everybody else around them. Like, they want to go up to that standard and play to that standard. They're not going to score 38 points. No one else on that roster is going to do that. But they are going to give her cut her the slack that she needs at the times that they need to do it at times in this season. And so, again, another incredible performance. I mean, I don't think there's anybody in the country who could guard her. And I think just the fact that she plays for Vanderbilt, I think if they continue on this run, more and more people will start to notice her that haven't already from last year. But I think she deserves, you know, to be in that upper conversation with the Hidalgos of the world, the Lauren Bettses of the world, some of these other upper echelon players across the country.
And that kind of leads me into my question was, you know, she's averaging 30 points per game in SEC play. Obviously, there's still a long ways to go, but we talked during the football season about how it seemed like Diego Pavio, we made the case for the Heisman, ended up finishing in second. Do you think there's a real possibility that she could end up as the SEC Player of the Year?
I mean, sure. I think so, too, especially if Vanderbilt continues to be a top 5 team. And on these bracketology projections continues to hang around maybe a 1 or 2 seed, similar to that Diego Pavia argument. When I told you guys, I said, hey, if you take Diego Pavia and you put him on another team, they are having an equal to better season. But if you take Diego Pavia off that team, or let's say you put Fernando Mendoza on Vanderbilt, are they having the best season in school history? Right. I don't know. I don't know. You'd have to convince me otherwise. Now, if you take Michaela Blakes off this roster, I mean, it is not a good basketball team, right? Or at least not as good of a team. Like, she is the engine that makes this thing go. I think everybody in the country would love to have a player like her. And if you're thinking as best player, how I see it is not just the best, but the most valuable. Like, the way she impacts the game and her usage rate is so high that if she has an off night, there's no way that they're winning games. Yeah, right. You know what I mean? So she is the scouting report number 1, 2, and 3 on the list for all of these teams. And somehow, you know, they know that they're gunning for her, and she still is able to put up the numbers that she does. It's incredible, guys.
She's a blessing for Coach Shea Ralph, and Coach spoke after the game.
Yeah, I think that the game was super physical. I think they did a good job of being physical, but that's not any different than we've seen before. I think we just have to learn how to play through that better. Also thought we didn't do a great job defending their straight line drives and rebounding. That's been, again, not something new. And they capitalized on that. So something that we'll have to continue to work on, but the basketball is a game of runs. So I understand that. My team understands that, and it was important for us to make sure that run didn't go any longer, which we did a good job of.
A final thing on the women before we go. They play Michigan coming up, and this is like I saw a bunch of national promos for this one. I think it's Fox or Fox Sports 1. This is a big game. Obviously, it's not in conference, but how big could this be just from a headspace standpoint moving forward into going back into the SEC?
Yeah, the SEC in women's hoops is interesting because it's not like you need to schedule like tough out of conference games
100%.
Necessarily. The resume speak for itself through conference. However, Shea Ralph is trying to get this team ready because you're not going to play an SEC team at the start of the NCAA tournament. You know what I mean? And so the idea is to get them ready for March, and that is a huge game. Now, I talked to Shea Ralph, I think 2 games ago after their Texas A&M win, and she said, look, like the start and the streak and all of that is great, but like whether we win or get to our goals or not, I want to get them the most out of this season and the most out of this opportunity. And I think that goes to playing teams like this in order to get them ready for March. They are going to be a tournament team. Michaela Blakes is going to be front and center, but will they be battle tested enough outside the conference? And this is certainly a game to do so. And a game like this certainly gives the help with the national perception to maybe flip them into a 1 seed for the rest of the way, and then you're basically playing with house money at that point because you control your own destiny when it comes to a better situation when the tournament and the bracket come out.
Final thing, we got to talk Titans.
Oh,
The heck's going on over there? What the heck is going on over there? Okay, the first team, the first franchise to fire their coach, and then now it feels like you just lost to the Giants in a big way. Just paint me a picture of what is going on there, and if they had their pick, who would they go after? And maybe if it's different from a fan's perspective than from a management perspective, have those dividing lines as well.
Yeah, so obviously they were scheduled to meet yesterday with John Harbaugh, but the plane didn't even get off the ground, guys. I mean, the owner was flying here to Nashville to take the jet to his house in Maryland, and that obviously didn't work out. And I think fans were bummed, but I'll offer some, I guess, a voice of reason in the sense that they didn't expect Harbaugh to be available anyway. So they were already interviewing. I mean, they've been interested or linked to or have interviewed close to 20 candidates right now. Jeez. That is a lot. Now, are all these candidates viable head coaching options? No. A lot of this is fact-finding. A lot of this is maybe, hey, would you be interested in a coordinator position? A lot of it is like, hey, what do you think of our team? And what do you think of the players? I think they interviewed Lou Anarumo, one of the first guys. He's a defensive coordinator for the Colts. He's not really a candidate, right? But it is worthy to say, hey, how would you defend Cam Ward this way? And to an in-division opponent. So all the signs, at least right now to me, indicate that they are going to go with somebody with experience. A lot of times you see when a team has a certain kind of coach and it doesn't work out, they tend to go the opposite. Brian Callahan didn't work out. He was a first-year head coach, play caller, schemer. I think they are going to end up going with somebody with head coaching experience before and somebody who's a little bit more of a alpha leader, and I think that's what you need when you are trying to build a culture and identity like the Titans are trying to do. It is an attractive job. We've talked about it with Cam Ward, the cap space, a new stadium opening up. If I were to put money on or who I think it is going to be, and this is not off any inside knowledge, it's just off vibes alone.
Vibes alone.
Matt Nagy, who's the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs, used to be the head coach for the Bears. He is the leader in the clubhouse on the betting odds favorites for a reason, and that's because he has a connection with Mike Borgonzi, the current GM who used to be in Kansas City. I think Mike McCarthy wouldn't be too terrible because a lot of people don't realize that he has the same resume as Harbaugh. They both have a Super Bowl ring. They both won a lot of games. They both have pelts on the wall. It's just Harbaugh has a little bit more, I guess, aura, I guess you would say, and he's been coaching more recently. He doesn't have the break that McCarthy took, and that's why maybe the hype for McCarthy isn't as high as it would be for a John Harbaugh. So those are probably the leaders in the clubhouse. But the idea is that they would have maybe 3 or 4 candidates next week for a second round of interviews.
Interesting. I'm actually going to look up the Nagy number. Might be worth it to bet a little bit on who the future coach is going to be. Julian, thank you so much for your time today here, brother, on Southeast Sports Plus. I know you're really busy.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Anytime. Talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Julian Minnesota joining us from Nashville, Tennessee. If I'm a Titans fan, Nagy, I don't know how excited can that be.
How can you put people in the stands? Like
right.
Just I'm just looking at that from an outsider's perspective, not even a Titans fans by any means.
Yeah.
How can you sell that to the fan base?
It's going to be like selling Brian Callahan that they just had. But the thing is that
they got to push for Stefanski.
What I found interesting is that he talks about all the things they're looking for. A guy with proven experience and an alpha leader, all that kind of stuff. And I was thinking, they had Mike Vrabel. He was there. They already had that. Now, as a Patriots fan, I'm like, you know what? Thanks for the gift. But
I don't know.
You had what you're looking for.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to me.
Unbelievable.
Tennessee Titans still looking for a new head coach. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we'll talk basketball once again and gearing up for another big weekend on the court. Stay with us. Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. We have a great weekend of basketball up ahead, but I'm going to do a little juke move here. I said teased basketball on the front end. Let's actually talk some almost NFL. Let's talk some college football.
Some NFL prospects right here.
NFL prospects, including the number 1 overall pick. Go ahead and forecast that one with Fernando Mendoza leading the Indiana Hoosiers into the national championship game in Miami, in the same place where Miami plays their home games. They're at Hard Rock Stadium. This is a game that I don't know if a lot of people had on their brackets unless you went to Miami or unless you're a Miami fan and you had Miami moving all the way out there. But to me, I feel like the more that we talk about this, the more I think these two teams actually match up pretty well. I've been super impressed with Indiana so far. But the more you kind of crunch the numbers, this actually might be a better game than most people are saying.
Yeah, and I just find it so surprising that, as you mentioned, Miami playing in their home stadium is a heavy underdog, 8.5 points. It opened up at 7.5. Now it's swung a whole point in Indiana's favor. So, I mean, you're talking about a 2-possession game, so to speak, on home turf. I don't think there's going to be as big of a home field advantage as people may think, because you get 20,000 tickets per fan base, and then the rest are just sold to, I believe the rest of them are corporate.
Right, like the corporate suites. It's like
kind of like
the Super Bowl.
It really is Super Bowl. So I mean, I wouldn't really expect the Miami faithful to have that big of an advantage. I mean, we saw Indiana in Atlanta. That was like 85-15.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a sea of red, and they definitely traveled. But I think it's when you look at the offensive side of the ball, I think Indiana has the better offense than Miami. But when you look at the defense, I mean, it's hard to talk about. It's hard to ignore what Miami has done to get to this point. I mean, they made Marcel Reed look bad.
Yeah, they did.
You can talk about the wind all you want. They also made Julian Sand look bad too.
That's honestly, to me, if I'm pointing to any game, if you want to do just a straight up comparison, 2 games back to back, take the Miami versus Ohio State game, take the Indiana versus Ohio State game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, I'm actually a little bit more impressed with the way Miami played against Ohio State than I am with the way that Indiana played against Ohio State. Now, as far as matchups go, we talked about this as Ole Miss was gearing up for, or as Miami was gearing up for Ole Miss. That defense overall, do you think the defense has enough for the Heisman Trophy winner and the future number 1 overall draft pick in Fernando Mendoza?
You know, that's the talking point because Mendoza has more touchdown passes than incompletions in the college football playoff, which is just absolutely unreal. I mean, the passing yards haven't been there, but he just hasn't had to throw the ball, and that's been the story of the season. We talked about this after Mendoza won the Heisman Award. I believe Indiana had the 20th best passing offense in the country.
Right.
And he still won the Heisman because he's got over 40 total touchdowns compared to, I believe it's like 5 interceptions this year. I mean, just some ridiculous numbers. And I think it definitely caught some people by surprise, the fact that a Heisman Award winner was a quarterback that had the 20th best passing offense, but he does it both ways. And I mean, it's just incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. When you talk about models, and everything is copycat. You go to the NFL, one team started running the Wildcat, everybody started running the Wildcat. College football, you had Gus Malzahn and a few others that were at Auburn. They're running the RPO, and everybody started running RPO. This is such a copycat deal. Yeah. The way Kirk Cignetti structures his team is very unapologetic. It is very, hey, he wants an older guy. He doesn't want the 5-star high school kid. Yeah, if you want the 5-star high school kid, but has he produced at that level? Yeah. And Cignetti's like, hey, I want production over, a prospect. And he's taken a lot of guys out of the portal, and it's worked. It worked last year, ended up, having a good season for Indiana, kind of grading on a curve. And then it's worked this year, going all the way to the national championship game. Do you think this model works, and will other teams start doing it? Just saying, hey, look, screw everything else. We're running a professional franchise, so instead of going in and getting the number 1 overall rookie, I'm going to go in and go get the veteran that's been to a playoff game and molding your team that way.
I think so, because there's no restrictions really right now. I mean, with
the highest
what you
bidder
can
these
do.
days.
Yeah, we see it in the MLB too, which we'll get to cap off the hour in a few minutes. But I think it's going to be something that we start to see more often. Yeah, you can go out and get your 5-star out of high school, but what does that mean? That just means they're going to want more money once they enter the transfer portal. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like drafting Paul Skeens, and then Paul Skeens is really good. He's just going to want more money that I know Bob Nutting, the owner of the Pirates, isn't going to dish out because he doesn't pay anybody.
Yeah. Kirk Cignetti talked a little bit about having those older players, what that means for him, and this model is going to continue because they have Josh Hoover coming in next year as once Fernando Mendoza is gone. Here's Coach Sig.
I think it helps us a ton, but that's what we would look for too. When I came, it was a quick process, a 3-day hiring process. And when I got here, we had 10 offensive starters in the transfer portal, and we had 1 returner on defense. So we were down to 40 scholarships, by day 3. And so, we needed to hit the portal hard. And, we signed 22 guys that had all been 2-3-year starters with consistent production. I knew we had flipped the roster. And then every year, as your high school recruiting builds up, you kind of start to wean down a little bit from the portal. So you'll never be at a point where you don't engage with the portal. And this year we'll take a few less than we took last year, and we took a few less last year than we did the year before. But I think getting older, mature guys that played a lot of football, if they got the right stuff, which they're not. I'm not bringing them in if they don't. It's an asset.
Let's flip her to the Miami side. There was at one point, and for those of you who bet, you kind of know what getting Cristobal means. It just means that a bet that you're going to win, Mario Cristobal is going to win screwed up. But to his credit, in 2026, we haven't been Cristobal yet. I haven't bet this game at all, but we haven't been Cristobal yet. Now, can this team take it over the hump? And I think if you're just watching it, this is pop psychology. I will say that. Dime store psychologists like to call it. If you're watching Cristobal, just body language standpoint, it feels like he has that something to prove mentality. And it feels like the team is kind of taking that effect too, that we have something to prove. Do you think that this team has what it takes to knock off the number 1 team in the nation and kind of show, hey, because I think if Indiana loses, I think we'll frame this year a little bit differently. If Indiana wins, get ready for all the hyperbole conversation about, is this the greatest team ever? That's coming, and I'll save everybody that because that will be on the way. I think if Miami wins, it's like, hey, is the U back? And I think that Cristobal, being so tight into the university, wants the U back.
No, because here's what I think is going to happen. The biggest question is, can Miami control the time of possession like they did against Ole Miss in the Fiesta Bowl? They held the ball for north of 41 minutes, which is still blows my mind in a 60-minute game. They hold the ball for 2/3 of the game. I mean, that's just absolutely unreal. But when you were watching that game, Ole Miss had so many opportunities to get off the field on 3rd down, and their inability to tackle a guy in open field. I mean, I watched Malachi Toney break off like 3 tackles when he should have had like a 1 or a 2 yard gain, and he turned it into like 15-yard first down. I just don't see that happening with this Indiana defense. They're a lot better. They're a lot more disciplined. They know how to tackle. They can put pressure on you. We saw the pick 6 from D'Angelo Pons to start the Peach Bowl. That got them rolling against Dante Moore. They aren't scared of this team. They aren't scared of anybody. I mean, Dante Moore, they heard the disrespect coming against Fernando Mendoza. They heard what they were saying about how Dante Moore should be the #1 overall pick over Mendoza, and they put that to bed. They're hearing a little bit about how Mark Fletcher, he's this great running back, averaging I think it's close to 7 yards a carry in the playoff, which is just absolutely unreal. They've seen what they did to Ole Miss. They're not scared at all. I just don't see it happening.
I don't know. I haven't taken it yet. I haven't even made an official prediction yet.
We'll make those on Monday.
The closer and closer we get, I'm this close to taking Miami. And I heard like the people like the Bear, and there's been a few other people that are saying Miami's going to win. I don't know if I see that. I see them maybe covering the number. They're in their own building, and you can't talk about Miami without talking about Carson Beck. I know it's kind of public enemy #1 for you.
What do you mean?
Given your Ole Miss fandom.
Whoa! I am not truly an Ole Miss.
No, I mean, okay. I would say of the SEC teams, you're the closest thing to.
I'm an honorary fan.
You know what? That's the way to put it.
I just root for a good story. That's all you could ever want.
Very true. That's very true.
And Carson Beck is looking for his 3rd national championship, albeit 2 as a backup.
Oh yeah, 2 as a backup at Georgia,
sitting behind Stetson Bennett there. And which you want to talk about national championship games with Stetson Bennett, and I mean, my goodness, 2022, that was probably the worst I'd ever seen.
Yeah, that was bad.
65-7, and I thought that TCU team was good too. I saw what Max Duggan did against Michigan. I saw what he did against the West Virginia Mountaineers there. I was at that game in Morgantown. I saw what he did. I thought they were going to be really good, but clearly not.
That thing was over quickly.
That thing was over in like 2 minutes.
We have a little thing in our group chat, and anytime somebody just puts up it's like the Netflix. I say GIF. People say GIF.
It's GIF. Yes, it is.
The person that created it says what I'm saying.
No.
But anyways,
GIF is like the peanut butter. You know?
I get both sides of it, but okay, the animal with the long neck is called what?
A giraffe.
A what?
A giraffe, but that's GIR.
Yeah, but I'm saying that you're pronouncing the G in the same way.
Okay, but how do you say what you get on Christmas?
A gift.
GIF.
This debate continues. I promise you. Anyways, we got sidetracked there. Anytime somebody puts up the in our group chat the Netflix that means like you're done watching sports. The night's over and it's now time to watch Netflix. I Netflix that day, like second quarter of Georgia TCU, that 65-7 absolute beatdown. We'll see if we get a beatdown on Monday night in Miami Gardens there.
It's GIF, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, it's GIF.
Pull up somewhere. Coming up next year on Southeast Sports Plus, we'll close up hour #1 with some baseball talk. Stay with us. He was really, really close to being a Florida Gator, committed to Florida, but now he's in the major leagues, and Kyle Tucker is going from my Chicago Cubs and inking a huge deal to sign with who else? The LA Dodgers, because they're getting just about everybody. The LA Dodgers once again adding to their insane lineup there with Kyle Tucker. I have to ask you, you're a Mets fan. You thought that this might be happening for him to go over to New York. It's not happening, but from what I take of it, you're not all that disappointed given the number.
No, and I think when I saw the the tweet that Steve Cohen sent out, the "let me know when you see smoke," kind of told me, hey, he hasn't really heard anything. They're just waiting at this point. The jokes were made about the Verizon outage, causing him to wait on this. But at first I was like, oh, great, here we go. We got Kevin Durant yet again. We just got Kyle Tucker going to the Dodgers. I can't wait to see what this offer was, because the last rumored offer that the Mets gave out was $20 million, 4 years, no deferrals.
Right.
And when I saw that the contract was $240 million, 6 years, I was like, or $240 million, 4 years, I was like, okay, you know what? I don't really care anymore. Because in my mind, this dude is not worth $60 million a year. I mean, that's just insane. And, the Dodgers and their deferred contracts, all of that stuff. You could talk about the Ohtani, $600+ million deferred until after he's done playing. Opt-outs after years 2 and 3. I don't really care, because he wasn't worth $60 million a year. There are, in my opinion, 3 players on this planet that are worth $60 million a year.
Right.
Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, Tarek Skubal. That's it.
Yeah.
Nobody else. For comparison, Kyle Tucker is making $60 million a year now. Juan Soto makes $51 million a year. How in the world can you justify paying Kyle Tucker more money per year than Juan Soto? You can't. You can't.
Yeah, it goes back to the definition of value. I mean, value is literally what somebody's willing to pay, especially in baseball with no salary cap. But speaking of, is this trend going straight to not having a baseball season in a couple of years? Because it feels like with the moves that the Dodgers are making, it feels like the owners and players are going to come to a head on this. And I really feel that it might not be as bad as it was like in the 90s. I think that we could be heading straight to a lockout, and we might not get baseball for a while.
If you like baseball, I would probably watch this season, because there is no guarantee that you're going to get anything in 2027, because the players are going to be like, well, why should you? Everyone's going to want a salary cap because of what the Dodgers are doing. And I think there should be a salary cap. I know we got to get to break, so I'll try to keep this short. Why would the players want there to be a cap on what they can make per year? So the players are going to be all in favor for keeping what it is right now.
Right.
Meanwhile, some of the owners are going to be like, well, no, we need a salary cap. So I don't think there's, at the very least, some games will be canceled in the 2027 season. We're going to have an abbreviated season at the very least.
Unless, like, the Rays can come up and make some team with, like, pennies.
I mean,
as
get a
cap.
floor, get a cap, and call it a day.
Yeah. I don't know if the players will budge on that, though. That's been the sticking point for a very long time. Hour number 2 of Southeast Sports Plus continues after the break. Stay with us.
In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Gerhard Mathangani.
But Auburn's good. Did they win tonight?
No, they lost to Missouri. Thanks, coach.
All right, I'm out before I say something.
straight up SpongeBob that thing. All right, I'm out. Just before he says something he's going to regret after losing to Auburn, not even close as well. Auburn blew them off the court last Saturday. Well, Arkansas, they rout South Carolina, and then he was trying to defend the loss the game before, and then obviously couldn't defend it because the SEC is the SEC, and it's crazy, and Auburn loses at Missouri. Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. Gerhard Mathangani, Patrick Walsh with you here on a Friday. Of course, we said happy Friday at the very beginning.
Yes,
we'll wish you happy Friday here in the second hour.
I got my Friday pink on.
As well. Friday, is that a thing? Friday pink?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's like Tiger Sunday.
You haven't noticed this?
Not at all.
Are you
I have not.
Every Friday.
Every Friday?
I wear the same shirt every Friday. Even it goes back to when I first started here.
Are you serious?
Yes. If you go back in the archives.
Yeah.
Every single Friday, football show.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Is it like a Tiger Woods thing? Like it's just like a
I kind of wanted to
like
start a thing. You know, you got to have fun with it.
Pink Fridays.
Pink Fridays.
I got to be more observant, man. I had no idea. I had no clue.
we do this show every week.
I know. I just had never connected those dots. So back to basketball here.
Yeah.
John Calipari and company, a huge win over South Carolina. This is, to me, if I'm picking the most dangerous team, maybe not the best, the most dangerous team to me is Arkansas. Now you could just say, hey, rewind the tape from less than a week ago and we saw them just getting blown off the floor by an Auburn team that might be But I think for John Calipari and company, with a young team, they usually take some time to mature, and it feels like 15, 16 games into the season, they're starting to round into form a bit.
Yeah, and I feel like John Calipari is one of those traditional coaches, one of the few that still exist in college basketball, where he's heavy on the recruiting out of high school. Darius Acuff Jr., he's a freshman. He loves to play the freshman. And a lot of times, as you've seen with Shepard in the past and some other greats there at Kentucky, I believe Anthony Davis was a one and done for the Wildcats. That's just his MO. He wants to develop young kids into NBA level talent, and you rarely ever would see him go out and get these 21, 22, 23-year-olds out of the portal, and he's just been so outspoken. Him, Tom Izzo, the list goes on and on about how the NCAA is allowing these former NBA draft picks to come back.
Right.
I'm sure. I think we played the funny soundbite of Calipari. You got the rules be the rules.
The rules be the rules.
My goodness. If there was a Hall of Fame for sound bites from this year alone, that has to be number one. I don't even care if we haven't even gotten to baseball season yet. That is number one.
To me, I think that Calipari, and I'll just call a spade a spade. A lot of it is selfish. He wants to be able to recruit the younger guys and keep those younger guys in house. But I get his overall stance as well. What is college supposed to be? It's supposed to be a training ground for those 17, 18 to 22, 23.
It's not supposed to literally be the minor leagues.
Correct. Right. And that's what it's turning into in college basketball. They're trying to stem that a little bit. But Malik Thomas was great for this basketball team. 21 points there off the bench. And this to me is a sign of, it's kind of what Julian was talking about earlier with Vanderbilt. Every now and again, you just can't rely on the same 5-6 guys to give you your standard points. You need some production off the bench, and maybe an outsized way from their normal production. Why? Because it keeps you deep when you need to win 6 games in a row in the NCAA tournament, or you need to win 6 out of 7 games to end the regular season or to go to your conference tournament, playing well towards the end of the year, which of course is the only time that matters in college basketball.
Well, I will say this. I feel like sometimes your sixth man, so to speak, is your best shooter, because you want to have a guy on the floor when your starters are out of the game, so that way you don't lose all of that offensive production. And, well, what did Malik Thomas do? He went 5 for 5 from 3 and 8 for 9. We talked about how efficient LeBaron Philon was the other night. Mm-hmm. This has to be the most efficient 21 points I've ever seen. The only way it could be better is if he went 9 for 9 from the floor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just absolutely unreal.
Right. And everybody knows Darius Acuff's talent. I mean, he's the reason why Boogie Flan is off to Florida. He's making a lot of money. He'll be a one and done. He'll be a first round. He'll be a lottery pick in the NBA next year. So
Pacers, please pick him up.
Yeah, honestly, that's probably a good fit to be able to take the ball out of Tyrese Halliburton's hands a little bit and let Halliburton.
What are you going to get from Nesmith and Nembhard? Like, you just don't know.
Precisely. John Calipari on his team's response after losing that game to Auburn and bouncing back against South Carolina.
It's amazing. I've had more people tell me I love your team. Today, Julius Randle texted me and said, I really love your team. I said, did you watch the last game? he said it doesn't matter. Different people are calling me about this group and saying you have a lot of pieces. And what you got to do is there are games where you just got to find 5 guys. Like, we're not doing this, but these 5 are. But we hit a game where we couldn't even find 5. I was looking for 5. We couldn't find 5. And I even told Lamont after, I said, what you just did here, we did at Auburn. It's the same thing. You kind of let go of the rope. We did the same. But they're a good team. I mean, I've watched them on tape. They either won the game or had a chance to win every game they played. We had been the same with top 10 opponents, and then we hit Auburn. So hopefully we learned our lesson. We don't want to feel the way we felt after that game.
I think that's the mark of a good coach. The ones that can say, hey, took one on the chin and then rebound, be able to get better and kind of pounce to a victory coming up next. And that's what we saw with Arkansas. The next few games for Arkansas looked like this. No schedule is ever easy in the SEC, but you kind of want to do your home and away splits. Georgia, one of the highest scoring teams, and then Vanderbilt, who's of course really ticked off after losing their first game of the season. Yeah. LSU, Oklahoma, Kentucky, all winnable games, but this is not an easy stretch by any means.
No, and I mean we've seen it this week. Any team can beat any team in the SEC. I mean LSU should have beaten Kentucky.
Yeah.
Instead, they're 0-4 in SEC play. So I don't think we're going to see the level of dominance that we saw last year from the SEC when I made the assumption that South Carolina was the worst team I've ever seen in a conference.
Yeah.
The best team to finish dead last in the conference had to have been South
No
Carolina.
question.
I just don't think they could have easily competed in the ACC last year, and the ACC had a down year. It seems like they're on their way back up right now. UNC's looking pretty good. Duke looks pretty good. Clemson looks pretty good. But they've got a tough one here tomorrow. It's a top 25 matchup against Georgia. It's in Georgia. Georgia just lost that one at home to Ole Miss. We talked about earlier. So I mean, they're going to be playing 2 straight teams that are mad after losing games that they felt should have won.
Yeah, and so it should be really interesting. And this is kind of the gut check time because there's a lot of teams kind of crunched right in the middle after 4 games in SEC play. They're at 2-2. Let's move over to the Missouri-Auburn game. This reminds me of Nick Saban's old quote. Nick Saban used to say, whenever you make an A on a test, the natural inclination for human beings is to relax. And so you don't prepare, you don't study, and then you make a C. So then you wind up with a B average. And that's what most people are. Most people just have that B average. That's what Auburn reminded me of. You got the big win against Arkansas. You needed a big win. And not only did you beat Arkansas, you beat them by more than 20. And then they come out against Missouri and have a C effort. And now they're sitting there at 1-3. So, I mean, if I'm grading on an A to F curve, 1-3 is probably worse than a B average. But I'll just give them the benefit of the doubt, given the fact that their first 2 games are really close.
Yeah.
And this just reminds me of just what Nick Saban always warns about with human condition, just saying, hey, look, we're going to be okay, and then kind of sleepwalking through your next game.
Yeah, and I think, I don't remember what game it was. It might have been the Florida game, but when I was saying if Missouri has a chance, they need to have Jaden Stone have a big night. And
you called that, yeah.
He was on West Virginia last year. Last year was my senior year at West Virginia. It just makes me wonder, what in the world was Darren DeVries doing not playing this guy? Because, I mean, he dropped 22 more points, and he lifted Mizzou. Him and, goodness, I'm blanking on the name there. Mark Mitchell had nice nights for the Tigers there in the Battle of the Tigers.
Absolutely. Jaden Stone, as you mentioned, in the win with those 22 points. Efficient day from the floor as Missouri built up a 13-point lead. Auburn storms back, but they hold them off 7 of 10. So a very efficient night from the floor was Jaden Stone. Head coach Dennis Gates talked about facing adversity and overcoming it.
I saw our program respond to what we knew was going to happen, a team fighting back late in the game and trying to find a way. That's SEC conference play. It's going to go possession by possession. We knew that we had a double-digit lead, but there's no doubt about it. They put themselves in a great situation to get away with 8 free throws, and we were able to respond. That's the most important thing I will focus on. Our guys didn't do anything bad. I thought Auburn did everything right to kind of muck up the game at that point. Once we started playing on our toes and not our heels, putting pressure on our basket, no matter how far we was away, we were able to break the press and execute and obviously get to the line.
I want flipping down to Auburn.
Yeah.
You got to be fair. He's the first-year head coach.
Yeah.
So everything he's doing it for the first time with Coach Stephen Pearl. It feels like, though, you're watching. This is a clunky comparison, I know. It feels like you're watching a baby giraffe walk for the first time. You know how it is, and it's just kind of awkward to begin with, and it's stumbling around, and it's got these really long legs, so it's got a lot to deal with at the same time as it's learning a basic function. I think that's what we're learning with Stephen Pearl. Coming into this season, taking over for his dad, he sat right there at the right-hand side, but it felt like at the beginning of the season, you saw that close loss to Houston when Houston was like the number one team in the country, some rebound issues. Then later on in press conferences, he's talking about kids not showing up and being on time. Then they get the big win over Arkansas. It just feels like it's a foot forward, 2 steps back, and you're just watching a coach learn in real time how to walk like a head coach. That said, given what this Auburn team has been through, do you trust this team as they move forward, or do you still expect to see this kind of awkward transition?
Yeah, I don't know. And you can't forget about the game against Bellarmine to start the year, taking them to overtime. You definitely can't have that happen if you want to make a deep run. But when you look at 2 guys that we've talked about need to be leaders on this team stepping up, I mean, they were pretty quiet. They went a combined 5 for 21 from the field, that being Todd Pettiford and Keyshawn Hall, 19 points in the loss, did not hit a single three-pointer. I mean, you just can't have that. And at least with Keyshawn Hall, he kind of impacts the game in other ways, the rebounding, the assists. But when Tahad only has 2 assists, 3 rebounds, I mean, you just can't have that moving forward. And I know Tahad came off the bench in a couple of games. Stephen Pearl did that on purpose, disciplinary reasons. But it feels like you're waiting for that guy to step up for him and for this team, and just being that vocal leader on the court. And I don't know if they're really – some bracket projections have them in, I believe it was the Final Four in.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, I mean, you already have to talk about how they might be in danger of missing this.
Right. I feel like with this basketball team, and you mentioned the numbers for their 2 key stars, but they still had a shot late to win the game.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me, if you run the mile in a tuxedo and you do it and you are only a minute off of your regular time, the conditions aren't great and you still run it in a decent amount, like in a decent time. Do you think, okay, well then it's like, oh, what if I was in my regular gear? You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if Auburn's looking at a glass half full, like the Alabama game. For example, Alabama loses, but they missed 31 three-pointers. They're like, hey, we missed 31 three-pointers, only lost by 4. It's like we played one of our worst games. Is it something that you could almost spin it as a positive without being too Pollyanna?
You know, I don't know, because when I think about it, I just have a weird feeling that Auburn fans after the season, they're going to reflect on SEC play, and the game that's going to come up the most is that Georgia game.
The overtime game.
Clawed back into the game. You had that chance to win it. The 4 points there with less than a second remaining, which is absolutely unreal. I was shocked when it happened, and it seemed like, Georgia fans were going to have a week that they wanted to forget, because literally 2 days before they lost to Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl. And it was like, oh man, here we go again. But I just don't know, because they haven't shown enough consistency to make me believe that, hey, they can right the ship moving forward. Keyshawn Hall had those back-to-back 32-point games. That was big for them.
Right.
But he only had 10 points in this last one, and they need a bounce-back game, because they have South Carolina here this weekend, and they put a scare into some teams this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Stephen Pearl, brutally honest about his team's performance.
Very. I mean, you saw the energy in the gym those 2 days. Like, it was really good. Guys were flying around and in a good spot, and we've had really good practices since Christmas, and that's been consistent. And then today, it just it didn't look right, and we had a sloppy walkthrough, and trying to insert some energy and get us going a little bit, and it just we looked hungover, and I'm not sure why. So I got to figure that out. I got to do a better job as a coach, in those situations, because we can't come out flat like that. We're not good enough to not be the more excited team and the team that plays with the most effort and energy. And in order for us to win these types of games, like, that's how we have to play, and we didn't do that tonight. So incredibly surprised and obviously disappointed myself for not being able to get them up and excited to play a really good team.
At the risk of somebody like counting my crutch words and saying playing a drinking game or whatever with that, the amount of times he said in there, I never noticed it until somebody says it. It's like your pink shirt thing. I'm like, oh man, I'll never not notice that from here on out.
Yeah, and I think I counted 8.
8 in what, about a minute?
8 in about a minute.
About a minute long soundbite.
Some of his press conferences roll about 20 minutes. So on average here, let's see, 160.
160. Don't play a drinking game with
please do not do that.
Stephen Pearl.
It's like the whole Taylor Swift situation in the last 2 years in the playoffs.
No,
how many times they show?
Yeah. Honestly, I think directors. This is neither here nor there. I would think directors would look at that and literally was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to over that number. They would like take it upon themselves to be like, have their TD have a Taylor Swift cam and literally just any third down, anytime Travis does anything, pop it up there.
You can bet on anything these days. You could probably bet on that.
Oh, no question. Yeah. Yeah.
Auburn's got South Carolina, Ole Miss, Florida, Texas, Tennessee coming up. What do you expect?
Winnable stretch, but also losable stretch.
Because the South Carolina game is at home, which I made mention to you yesterday. I was a little surprised that that's the highest get-in ticket this weekend when you have a couple top 25 matchups.
Right.
Well, I believe it's north of $100 to get in.
Yeah, it's a tough ticket right now for reasons unknown.
But then you've got Ole Miss on Tuesday, which it seems like we talked about in hour number 1. The Rebels are starting to figure it out.
Yeah.
Florida, you've got that Final Four rematch. Texas, who they're going to Auburn. They just won a game in Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, just won
last weekend.
Won 2 really impressive games.
And then Tennessee, that could be a little bit dicey too.
And they're dangerous as well. So
never know what you're going to get out of Jacoby Gillespie.
This is it's a very, very important stretch here. And for Auburn, that loss, as you mentioned, they lost those 2 games in the SEC to start. They're already starting behind the 8 ball.
Right.
They played well, close enough, but close enough doesn't get you closer to the tournament. So we'll see how it all goes. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we will talk about a major quarterback that is coming back to a school in the SEC. Noah Gross joins us from Austin, Texas later in the show. That and so much more coming up later. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, the transfer portal closes today. We found out there's one major quarterback that is not entering the portal, not going to the NFL. It's John Mateer, who will return to Norman, Oklahoma to play for the Sooners next year. Of course, led the team to the college football playoff this past year. This has to be a welcoming sight for Coach Brent Venables and company. You have Ben Arbuckle back. You have John Mateer back. I know they lost some production in the running back room. They'll lose some key players on defense. But to have your signal caller back for next season has to be huge for Oklahoma.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about this earlier in the week, and it was interesting that we hadn't heard anything about John Mateer, especially with Michael Hawkins Jr. committing to West Virginia. It almost felt like he kind of knew something that everyone else didn't.
Right.
And it was like, eventually we had to address the elephant in the room, and John Mateer does end up opting to come back. We could talk a little bit about, is this the best option for him? He didn't really have the year that he was expecting just because of that hand surgery. Yeah. I don't know if playing what was it, the Cotton Bowl? The Red River rivalry.
Against Texas,
I don't know if that was truly the best option for him. He threw 3 interceptions in the game because after then, it really didn't seem like he looked like himself until the Alabama CFP first-round game.
Yeah, and this was a team obviously led by their defense, but he was kind of their main catalyst as far as running the football goes. They got no production or very little production out of their running backs. They had Jay Knott that was on the roster. Yeah. They got Blackman, who had some production late in the year, but he was kind of their running game, stabilizing the offense. I think people expected more out of him, but then kind of graded on a curve when he came back from the injury, because it was like, oh, well, of course he's not going to look good because of this injury, this hand injury. Ended up getting his team into the college football playoff. I do think it's best for his growth only because Ben Arbuckle's staying. And I think they got enough intel from the NFL guys. Hey, this is what he needs to work on. This is where he'll be good. And then they have some help in that wide receiver room. Satania's coming back. Isaiah Satania's coming back. I saw that where he's coming back for Oklahoma.
Over from Texas.
Then he got the transfer from Texas. There's going to be the
added edge there because of the whole Texas situation.
Correct.
We talked about that on the show a few weeks ago about how in today's college landscape we're starting to see teams kind of force these players to enter the transfer portal because they're like, hey, there's no spot for you, so you might as well go ahead and just enter the portal and get out of here.
Yeah, and he was almost forced out. So I'm interested in the Red River rivalry next year only because you have Parker Livingston going up against his former team, and can him and John Mateer get on the same page?
Hopefully John Mateer
for sure. Time. Yeah. And I was going to say, I think health is going to be the biggest thing. Yeah. If he comes out this year, his health is still going to be an issue for NFL GMs, and I don't think that you make the kind of money that you would make going into college, back to college football.
Right.
I don't know what his NIL deal is, but I'm sure he's making
I think it's a new deal.
Right. Right.
I think I saw the terminology again. Agreed to a new deal.
Right.
That would bring him back for the 2026 season. But it's just, I think he's going to be, and this is not his fault by any means. I feel like he's going to be a little bit upset that he did get hurt this year because if I'm a quarterback, I would go to the draft here this year because it looks like it's Fernando Mendoza. And then it's Ty Simpson.
Yeah.
And then who else? Some people are saying Trinidad Chambliss, but Chambliss might come back.
Yeah.
Dante Moore kind of threw a wrench in everyone's plans by announcing that he was going to return to Oregon. I just think when you look at the 2027 class, it's obviously going to be headlined by Arch Manning.
Yeah.
And then after it, you also have to look at Rocco Becht, who just transferred to Penn State. You have to look at maybe Gunnar Stockton. He might be up there.
Yeah.
Dante Moore is obviously going to headline that. Julian Sayen's going to be in that class. Bo Perbula maybe if he finds some success.
Yeah. And he gets healthy and he stays healthy.
I don't
Lenore
know.
Sellers,
Lenore
probably.
Sellers is going to be up there. Lagway's going to try to be up there. I mean, it's crowded. And I think Mestemaker, who just went from North Texas to Oklahoma State, is also going to be up there.
Right.
Alongside
Sam Levitt.
Like, we keep listing these names. It's going to be a generational quarterback class. Do you really want to enter yourself into the mix for that? Because there's a chance that one of these guys, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we were talking 5 years from now, that one of the guys that was drafted in the 2027 class, or that wasn't drafted, he went undrafted, would be a star. Because, I mean, there's just that
so many. Yeah.
There's so many.
And simple probabilities would tell you, maybe 20%, 30% hit rate. And then who knows? I mean, if it is a dice roll, who knows if the guy if it's the 5th round or the 6th round, or as you mentioned, undrafted, is the guy that pops and it ends up being the superstar moving forward. For Oklahoma, they have a really interesting schedule because obviously every team goes to a 9-game conference slate into next year. No disrespect to UTEP, no disrespect to New Mexico. I think that they win both those games pretty handily. Their other games at home, Kentucky, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Texas A&M. I know Ole Miss and Texas A&M won't be easy as far as on the road. Going to the big house, of course, against Michigan. Going between the hedges to Georgia, Mississippi State, Florida, and Mizzou. I mean, it's a daunting schedule, but I could see a return back to the college football playoff.
What do you expect? Like, when you take a look at this schedule, what's a respectable record for him?
I'm going to do my January 16th. My January 16th. Don't hold this against me. Don't clip it. And if they go undefeated or 0-10,
don't clip it.
Throw this back in my face. UTEP win, New Mexico win, Kentucky win, South Carolina win. Ole Miss, it depends on Chambliss. Chambliss in, loss. Chambliss out, win. Texas A&M loss. That's one loss. It's 2 losses. If he's back.
Potentially.
Michigan at Michigan, new coach. That's
no Justice Haynes.
No Justice Haynes, but Kyle Whittingham. In the big house, that's a loss. Against Georgia, that's probably
they're having to replace 5 of their 6 wideouts, by the way. Might I add?
Yeah.
Georgia is.
Okay.
Branches to the draft.
They go between the hedges and get a win.
Wow.
Mississippi State will be a win. Florida, I think it's going to take. I think it's going to take John Summerall. I think it's going to take him a year to get it rolling.
Yeah.
I think that's a win. Missouri a win, and Texas.
Got to be careful with your words.
I know, because if the committee doesn't, here's the thing, I could say no playoffs, but then when the committee meets, they meet on Sunday, right before the national championship game. If they ratify a 16-team playoff, a 4-loss SEC team, I think, still gets into the college football playoff, in my opinion. If they don't, and they
24 playoff, a 4-loss SEC
for
team
sure, 24 or 4-loss definitely does. But then in my very fast win-loss thing here, if they do lose to Texas, and that is 4 losses, in a 12-team playoff, that 4 loss, you're done. In a 16-team playoff, that 4 loss, I think you're in.
UTEP is definitely a win. New Mexico's a win. Kentucky's a win. South Carolina's a win. Ole Miss is a loss no matter what, because I still believe in Deuce Knight.
And he's not a fan.
I'm not a fan. You cannot. Watch that.
You're thinking Deuce Knight.
You cannot watch Deuce Knight again. It's against Mercer.
Yeah.
You cannot watch that performance and be like, oh, he's gonna be a threat for a few years.
No. He looks like
especially alongside Kewan Lacey.
Yeah.
And the guy they got coming in over from East Carolina. I mean, it's gonna be the same style offense.
Yeah.
He was there at the Fiesta Bowl. I seriously would doubt that there's going to be any drop off. Texas A&M loss because the defense. I just don't expect them to.
They'll be good again.
Recover.
Yeah.
Michigan's a loss. Georgia's a loss. Mississippi State is a win. Florida's a win. Oh, Mizzou. Texas is a loss for sure.
That's 5.
It's just tough.
That's 5.
It's so tough because all of these teams are going to be rebounding next year.
Yeah, and they all have their quarterbacks going next year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it'll be interesting. I
might be talking about Brent Venables back on the hot seat.
Exactly. I know the Vegas over-unders typically come out in the summer.
Yeah.
Theirs will be interesting because I'm going to project they're going to say 8, maybe 8.5, 9.
Yeah.
I think if they put 9.
I think Ole Miss before the year was 8.5.
Right. And obviously you cleared that, 11 games into the year, 10 games into the year. Coming up next year on Southeast Sports Plus, we head out to Austin, Texas. We'll talk some Texas hoops and Texas football with our good buddy Noah Gross. That and more coming up next. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, we head out to Austin, Texas, and catching up with Noah Gross. This time last week, not to put you on blast, buddy, but this time last week we were talking and you were chalking up that Alabama game. I was too, by the way, so I'm not letting myself off the hook. We were just chalking that up to Bama hits a bunch of threes, Texas is a huge dog, and Texas goes into Alabama, goes to Coleman Coliseum, and picks up a win. It seems like they've carried that momentum because they got another win over Vanderbilt there at the Moody Center. What do you make so far of this Texas team? Before we ask you about the building, because Patrick has a specific question about the Moody Center, but what do you make of what this team's been able to do against two ranked opponents?
Excited to hear the question about the Moody Center because I have opinions on pretty much whatever it is, from media food to volume. But as far as the basketball
I've never been there.
itself, as far as the basketball itself, obviously Texas has played much better. There's like a new confidence with this team, but both teams they just beat, Alabama and Vanderbilt, missed so many open shots. I would say Vanderbilt probably more so than Alabama. Like, they were getting a lot of good looks and just were not hitting them, especially in the second half. But as I've come on and since football has died down for Texas and it's been increasingly basketball season, the one thing I've been saying is this team won't be that good because Tremont Mark is not the leader that they expected him to be. I'm not backing down from that, but he has played good basketball as of late. And, like, they're gassing him up, saying, how great he is. And, like, I can't blame him. The last couple of games, he's been so much better. He's put in effort. He's been a leader. He was challenging his teammates at halftime. So we'll see how consistent that is. And I do want to give the benefit of the doubt because this is why it's good for coaches to disclose some information, because everybody's bashing Tremont Mark for good reason. He hadn't been playing well. He's like a sixth-year guy that's been in college basketball for forever. But Sean Miller's just now talking about how difficult the offseason was for him, fighting through injuries, couldn't really practice much. So with that being said, now as he's getting healthier and more comfortable, it's clearly showing on the court. He's playing much better. Patrick, what do you got as far as the arena?
So, I'm a West Virginia grad, and the Big 12 was Texas's old conference. I've seen enough Big 12 basketball from when I was at college to know that the Moody Center is cursed, haunted. There's a stench about it, whatever you want to say, vendetta, anything. Is this place, like, I just don't know. I really want to know what Texas's home record is over the last few years, because I just feel like teams go there feeling pretty good about themselves, and then I don't know if it's the blow up balloons that they used to do, and they'd wave them around in the fans that I guess they haven't done in years, but I don't know what it is, but I feel like there's just something about that place.
Well, in the Big 12 days, it was largely the Irwin Center, which was, I only covered it for a little bit, but that place was a rough arena. Calling it arena was, tough. When Kevin Durant was back recently, when KD was back, he played for the Suns last year, and they played in Austin. Yeah. We asked him about it. He's like, I have good memories in there, but, like, it was much different than Moody Center is now, which to me is, like, too ritzy for a basketball arena. It feels like a concert venue and, like, meant for, like, the rich donors, which Texas has. It's
a wine and cheese.
Can we talk about this? Like, what is this big screen in the back?
Okay, the big screen is gigantic, I admit, and like I have a problems with the arena itself, and it just the students were great against Vanderbilt. I will give them that. Without them, that arena has nothing. But my biggest qualm with the Moody Center over the first couple of years is they were figuring stuff out, but like, man, that first year was so bad because we're sitting courtside shooting the game, and the audio level in that place was truly unfathomable. Like how loud they would have Thunderstruck and all these songs from the video board on, and they would be like, this is Texas, we like it loud. I'm like, you can be loud, the human beings, but you don't have to have the music at a decibel level that is going to shatter every eardrum in this place. Like, there has to be a legal limit. So that was my biggest qualm, and I think they've toned it down a little bit. It's still a little loud for my liking in there.
I was about to say, can you like talk to game day ops and just be like, hey, look, all right, man.
Please.
Here's a Benjamin. Like, bring those decibels down a little bit.
Yeah, a Benjamin might be a little bit strong, but I will say, I tweeted a couple years ago. I was like, we need to lower the volume in here, and then in the post-game press conference, did not get a question. I was raising my hand for a question.
Oh.
And so I don't know if that was correlated.
Did the SID pass you over? He was like,
yeah,
okay.
once it was called out, I don't know if that was why, but I took it as that reason.
Okay, well, I'll take a different spin on the Vendetta thing here just a second, because I want to ask one question about the men's team as they get ready to play Texas A&M. Like, we've seen now Buckyball a couple times now, and I was very, very curious as to how it would work on the Division I scale, and then especially in the SEC. And they were blowing teams off the floor early in the non-conference. Now they come out in conference. Well, now that this rivalry is back in two different styles, and as you mentioned, a team in Texas who's likely finding themselves, maybe with a little bit of luck from their opponents, now they come in with an opponent who looked really good in the non-conference and then just lost their first game. How do you figure this first Texas versus Buckyball will go coming up in this weekend?
So last week when we were talking about Texas having to face like an upbeat offense like Alabama, I had no confidence in them because they hadn't shown it. But the defensive effort they've had the past couple of games has been remarkable.
Yeah.
And, at home is kind of to be expected because the crowd's rocking. Last year against A&M, man, that was such a special game for Texas, who struggled last season, but had the incredible comeback late. Tremont Mark hit a big bucket late against the Aggies. So it's going to be rocking Saturday as the students return, and Texas is playing better basketball. So I think the effort's going to be there for them. I would say that is a definite plus. It's just, can they get enough offensively? That's the worry for me, because the Aggies are going to put up points, and Texas against Vanderbilt was able to score enough, but they had like 3 possessions that were huge and very key in the second half, where it was like shot clock running down, panic, give it to Tremont Mark, chuck up a 3, end of the shot clock, and it went in. So like the half-court offense was a bit iffy, but I would say I'm much more confident in Texas defensively now than I was last week, and that's not even to say anything about the offensive side of the ball, but the effort they've showed was genuinely different than they did in their first 2 games. So that I would have more confidence in from a Texas perspective.
Vokatitis had a really nice night against Vanderbilt. I believe he dropped 22 points. What have you seen in his development so far?
Yeah, much more confidence and just like aggressive. Like he had, coming over from FAU to the SEC, you have obviously a different level of physicality night in and night out. And like I figured it might take a little while for him to get used to that, but like he was seeking out contact against Vanderbilt, and I was there on the court, and you could just like hear him like kind of leading the charge in the paint and everything like that. So I remember one time in the first half he got blocked, or the ball got deflected when he was in the post and he was about to go up, and then he went up for he got the ball back, pump faked, went up again, and then threw it down, and kind of like he's a very like reserved guy, but like kind of puffed his chest out a little bit. And I'm like, that's what Texas needs, because he's like their guy at the center position. They have Lassina Traore, who's a backup. He's a veteran. He's fine. But like, if he's your number one guy, that's going to be an issue. So Midas Vokatitis is somebody they desperately need to be good. I mean, they don't have enough like proven commodities, Texas. Yeah. So they need all these guys to step up and be better than what they've been. And Vokatitis, I would say, has been. But for him, it's just like a mentality switch. Like if he can be like that alpha dog as a 7-footer with a bit of finesse in his game, that would be massive. And he was big against Vanderbilt. And post-game, they brought him to the post-game presser. And, like, every time they asked him a question, his teammates would start chuckling. And, like, before he even said anything. So I don't know if he's, like, these are laughing like a laughing at situation or laughing with. I hope it's a laughing with, because he might be, like, the funniest guy on the team then.
Right.
That alpha dog, you bringing that up. Who was it? Zion Young?
Oh, yeah.
The cat.
No, it's Zion Young from Missouri.
Talking about
a bunch of dogs and cats. Remember that from that thing went viral from SEC Media Days. It might have been the same day as Texas.
It might have been.
You might have been like knee deep with Arch Manning and Sark stuff on that day. Final thing on the men before we go to the women's side. Sean Miller was brutally honest about his team early on, in the same way kind of Coach Calipari is. We saw with Stephen Pearl this past week. But Sean Miller last week was almost talking about his group like they were a bunch of kids. Like, hey, when I tell you to not cross the road and you cross the road, I'm not saying disrespecting him anyway, but it felt like whatever disrespecting his first cousin is, like to his own team. But since then they've won 2 games. Is any of this a product of Coach Sean Miller, or is this just a gut check time between, as you mentioned, Vokatitis, who stepped his game up, and Mark, who stepped his game up as well?
100% a product of Coach Sean Miller. And I've been meaning to ask him, like, how difficult is that as a guy that's been doing this a long time to go after your team like that and hope, because it can go one of 2 ways. It can go even further south after that. So But it worked. Like the team, I was there against Vanderbilt, and they talked about, like after getting called out, like they had to make a choice, and they totally changed it in practice right away. And I mean, he's done that a couple of times. Like it took like 3 or 4 times of him calling them out, and I think it was like the most drastic one after the loss against Tennessee, where he was just like, "We're not making any progress," things like that. Like we're getting nothing out of this team. There's no effort. After that, the way they flipped it to Alabama was incredible. But they did cite that, and then they also cited some veterans on the team, like Mark, calling out his teammates, like Dalen Swain, who's been the best player on this team, and Tremont Mark said, "You're not closing out hard enough." He told him that at halftime of the Vanderbilt game, and he had a couple big turnovers forced in that second half. So it's him and then the guys that are veterans in the locker room as well that are able to do it. And Miller talked about like the difference the Alabama game was able to, the different mentality that they got from the Alabama game, like the confidence they carried from that to Vanderbilt was clear. And he's like, we just kept that moving into the Vanderbilt game. So it all did stem from him challenging his team.
Let's spin it to the women's basketball side because it was a tough one last night. I think we talked with Roger in the week. We didn't really expect South Carolina just losing 2 straight to Texas. What was your biggest takeaway from last night's matchup?
Yeah, Vic Schaefer was like very positive afterwards, which was surprising because in the game,
no more vendetta.
No more vendetta. I mean, he's probably still angry about the schedule, but as far as his team, he's like, we got a hell of a team, all this great stuff. My team put in great effort. Texas entered the game second in the entire country of like over 350 teams as far as turnovers per game. I mean, they don't shoot threes. This is like an old school team that like doesn't even abide by the 3-point line, and they don't turn the ball over. They had 10.5 turnovers per game. Last night they had 22, and it was ugly. It was like, FCS football type turnovers where it's like, what's even going on here? Just like, picking up your dribble way too soon and in very costly moments. So he didn't talk too much about that post game. The team did and been like, yeah, we need to do better on that. That was the biggest takeaway because Texas has been you talk about Moody Center being a house of horrors. It's been so good to Texas women's basketball. Last year they beat South Carolina at home. They beat LSU at home. They were outstanding, but on the road, they just look like a completely different team. Like last year when they went to South Carolina, Madison Booker did not look like herself. She was so inefficient. She was forcing shots. It wasn't as bad last night, but you could just tell like that wasn't her. And it was it's weird when this team gets away from home. And they haven't, I can't tell you like one time they've played a genuinely great game away from home the past couple of years, whether it's been neutral site in the NCAA tournament, which is hard. They got to the Final Four last year with a largely advantageous path, or on the road. So I'm not fretting too hard about this team. I think they'll still be a 1 seed and be fine, but they just have to show me more away from home.
Absolutely. The transfer portal closing up today. I'm not sure if there's any more Benjamin's up, Steve Sarkisian's up his sleeve there to pass along. This team's been spraying money all over the place. Got Cam Coleman, got a bunch of running backs. What do you make of these last 2 weeks and what Texas has been able to do? Let's start with the running back room before we get to Cam Coleman.
Yeah, I think they're like scarred from last year's running back room because they had no juice last year. CJ Baxter was not the same post-injury. Trey Wisner was fine, but he wasn't even as good as he was the previous year. And the offensive line didn't help, of course. So they've keep adding to the offensive line. And to me, they're in a great spot right now. Man, their offensive line has depth. They have some veterans. They have youngsters with some excitement. They have some sure things as well. And then you get 2 different running backs, which could be, I think of like Judkins and Travion Henderson at Ohio State a couple years ago. I think that's what Texas is trying to create because in their past couple years since Bijan Robinson left, they've had good running backs, but it's been multiple guys in that room. In 2024, when they made the semifinals, it was Trey Wisner, it was Jaden Blue, it was Jarrett Gibson running the ball as well. So they had different styles. So I think they're going to be like, I was saying that they didn't have the numbers and that they're going all out for these top guys, which was great, but like they didn't have enough. But like the last 48 hours, they're just like, they were like saving it and like, they're like, hold, and then just been like all out. Been like, here's $500,000, here's $500,000, and just like spraying it around. So I think they've done a good job of, waiting for the transfer portal to come to them. And they're they've really shored out their roster right now.
Who would have thought that you would use the words Texas and good stewards of their money in the same sentence, not just spraying it around everywhere? It's actually, you know what, using it relatively wisely. Of course, the biggest domino, so to speak, was former Auburn star Cam Coleman. Here in Mobile, there are a lot of Auburn people that are down this way. I think a lot of people were like, okay, just don't go to Alabama. Please, just don't go across the state. You got him out there after a visit to College Station. Presumably was also interested in LSU, but he's there now. As you now forecast Cam Coleman, Arch Manning, what are the thoughts that come to mind this fall?
Yeah, I mean, there's excitement. I will say, though, to me, like, going all out as a wide receiver being your number one addition to me is a bit iffy. Cam Coleman's extremely talented, and he kind of gives Texas that, you know, blitz coming, 50-50 ball, I just got to throw it up, threat that they haven't had in a while, because Ryan Wingo is a great receiver, but, like, he hasn't been very sure-handed as of late. So that's been an issue for Texas. So Cam Coleman, if you just, like, watch his highlights, it's like, boom, this guy can make contested catches with the best of them. So that's what it is to me, but I probably would have gone more all out at different positions and maybe just retained the wide receivers they had largely because I thought they were good in that room. Obviously, you guys have watched more Cam Coleman than me, but just seeing that, I'm like, I probably wouldn't have made my number one target a wide receiver. I probably would have gotten a more sure thing on the offensive line. They didn't know Jordan Seaton was entering or, you know, something like that. That was largely my thought process before they made all these other additions. I really love the linebacker they got from Pittsburgh. Just watching him, I think he's going to fit great in this Texas defensive scheme with Will Muschamp. So they've shortened us some other things to where I don't really have a problem with it. But when he was like their clear number one target, I'm like, you got to do something else here too.
Before we let you go, 4 straight losses. You haven't won in January yet. Do you get it done against Penn State on Sunday?
No, and it's interesting because neither Maryland men's basketball or Maryland football has won a conference game in, almost a year now. Maryland,
is that right?
Actually,
what?
Okay, I forgot. Maryland football won the one conference game against Wisconsin and then lost out after that. And then the men's basketball team, if they don't beat Penn State, they might not win a Big Ten game this year. So it's despicable. I would, if I was an unbelievably rich person, I would go to the Vanderbilt AD and say, put your number down. You're going to be the Maryland athletic director because what she's doing is incredible, and what they're doing in Maryland is despicable. So they got to figure it out.
What are your thoughts? Just one word on the Maryland men's basketball team. One word.
Despair. I mean, it's just yeah.
Man, our poor buddy, man. You look, all
hope. Queen
we were talking women's college basketball. That Texas team was great, and then we were talking about Cam Coleman, and then literally every ounce of his soul has now left his body. He's like thinking about this Maryland team. I'm right there with you, but I did not think about the stat that one team has won a conference game.
That's crazy.
That is wild. That is absolutely wild. No, you're right. There's got to be some changes over there.
Yeah, and the thing is, this is the change that they saw. They're like, all right, well, now this is the new regime, and it's clearly just been worse than fathomable. So clearly I'm having a great time watching this.
It's all right, I'm right there with you with Syracuse basketball. It's not really any better.
It's a table of despair. Noah, you're the best, buddy. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right, guys, have a good weekend. Go Terps.
See ya. Noah Gross joining us from Austin, Texas. And this whole thing started with Simone about asking him about Maryland. And literally,
it's just a Friday occurrence at 3:53.
It's a shift change. It's a vibe change every single time with him. He's like, he wants to have hope, and he just does it. I keep remembering that wedding story he talked about a little while ago. We'll close up our Friday show next. Closing moments here on Southeast Sports Plus. A great weekend of games here on the men's college basketball side. Tennessee will host Kentucky. Alabama on the road at Oklahoma looking for some answers. You have Vanderbilt at home against Florida. Top 20 battle there. LSU is back at home against the Missouri Tigers. Then later in the afternoon, it's Georgia and Arkansas, also a top 25 battle. Texas looking for 3 straight. They'll go up against Texas A&M and Buckyball there at 5 o'clock. Auburn, South Carolina, also at 5. Mississippi State and Ole Miss. So you have both the Texas rivalry and the Mississippi rivalry, kind of the basketball version of the Egg Bowl coming up in that matchup. And I'll tell you what, it's a good time to pick. And it's a good week to pick as well, because you're coming off of I would call it a 2-week heater, like a week and a half heater.
Yeah.
And I'm coming off a really nice week, midweek games.
Yeah.
So it's a good spot here.
It's 3:56. It's a Friday. That can only mean one thing. It is time for some more predictions. Kentucky taking on number 24 Tennessee. Vols are 5.5-point favorites last time I checked.
Honestly, the way Kentucky looked at LSU and just being able just to get out of Baton Rouge with a win there, I'm tempted to pick Tennessee. It seems like a lot of points.
Yeah.
I'll go with Kentucky to cover the number. I think Tennessee wins the game.
The one thing that I'm going to be paying attention to in this game, and I believe it is the early game, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it's the noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central. We talked earlier in the week with Sam Rothman and Rick Barnes and company. He tested out some new lineups.
Yeah.
And he put Ament at the 4. I would be very interested to watch the Ament versus Owe matchup tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep an eye on. And I think a lot of scouts are going to be watching that too, because obviously Owe was the preseason player of the year in the SEC, and we've seen how that has gone. Owe is starting to find his groove here a little bit. I think I do still have to go Tennessee, though. I think this is where Ament says, all right, I need to boost my draft stock right now.
Right.
I need to ensure that I'm going to be a lottery pick. Ament drops 18 points, or respectable 18.
Okay, I like that. Top 20 battle in Nashville as they go back to Memorial Coliseum. Vanderbilt, 3.5-point favorite against Florida.
Oh, man, it is such a good weekend.
Yeah.
Because this is tough. Florida, I think, has the better front court, but Vanderbilt by far and away has the better back court. I think Florida gets this one just because Boogie Fland is starting to come on. Ever since he got the haircut, everyone wants to talk about the new look Boogie Fland. Even Todd Golden was high on it. Xavier Lee, he's still a bit of a mystery coming over from Princeton, but I think that front court is just unbeatable with Houck and Condon. I think Florida is no match, or Vanderbilt's no match for them in the paint. Tyler Tanner, he can do all he wants, but I think Florida pulls out a 2-point win. It's going to be close. It's going to come down to the wire.
I think it's kind of gut check time for Vanderbilt. Yeah. Are they more bark than bite? This game, to my opinion, will prove it because they played Texas, lost to Texas. I got Vanderbilt as well in that one. Georgia, Arkansas, that game is in Athens.
I think I've got to go Arkansas here just because I know they're freshmen, and I know this is one of their first true tests, but this team is coming off a 30-plus point victory against South Carolina. I think Darius Acuff really establishes himself. And one of Georgia's strengths is their big men, Samto Surreal. We talked about him. It seems like I think he blocked 4 shots in the last 2 minutes in the game against Auburn.
Right.
Just something absolutely outrageous there. I think I do have to go Arkansas, though.
I got Georgia at home. It's a tough place to win if you're on the road, and they score a lot. They might give up a lot, but they'll score a lot there as well.
Texas A&M, Texas.
I like Texas. I really do. I like them stopping buckyball.
Really?
I think they keep that heater going. Bama, Vandy, Texas A&M, back to back.
Give me Sean Miller.
Okay.
Give me Sean Miller.
I like
Moody
it.
Center. It's haunted. I'm going to tell you. Noah Gross said it's the House of Horrors. And Ole Miss at Miss State.
Egg Bowl football went to Ole Miss. I'll go. I can't do Mississippi State. Ole Miss.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
No, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
I can't say that on there.
We're back on Monday for the National Championship preview. See you then.